hesitating. When you're just so tired of trying, all alone you feel like hiding. Together we'll keep fighting. There's no stopping us. Hold on, we're gonna make it. We're gonna make it. Don't stop now. Hold on, we're gonna make it. We're gonna mountains too high we can climb it. Fearless, we're taking the moment. There's no stopping us. Hold on, we're gonna make it. We're gonna make it. Can you see the sun is shining like a new hope? Feel it rising, coming over the horizon. There's no stopping us. Hold on, we're gonna make it. We're gonna make it. Don't stop now. Hold on, we're gonna make it. We're gonna mountains too high we can climb it. Fearless, we're taking the moment. There's no stopping us. Hold on, we're gonna make it. We're gonna make it. Don't you give up, don't you give up on me. Don't you give up, don't you give up now. Don't you give up, don't you give up on me. Don't you give up, don't you give up now. Don't you give up, don't you give up on me. Don't you give up, don't you give up now. Don't you give up, don't you give up on me. Don't you give up, don't you give up now. There's no stopping.
Good evening. Are we on the air? Okay, I see my volume go up. It's Saturday evening, 7 p.m., April 9th, and the weather has been weird the last 2 days. It's sunny, then it dark skies come, it's raining, then sunny again, then dark skies come. That was like yesterday. And today we had we were out for a while. Nice sunny day, a little chilly, but now it's dark again. So, but the week coming up, it's going to be in the 70s as we approach Holy Week and then Easter, and hopefully we'll stay warmer. Okay. So, we have a good thing to talk about because a lot of times when I speak to new home buyers, they really are not understanding the cost involved, and that's part of like a new home buyer's consultation. What are your costs that you have at the very beginning? Okay, in this process of finding a home and then writing a contract and following through with the bank on what has to be done. So we're going to go over those costs so it will better prepare you for that. And this is very helpful, especially for new home buyers. It's still a crazy market out there. Um, I have a lot of people looking, but they're kind of putting on the back burner. Maybe now with spring here and well, now we'll have the holiday. I mean, people are traveling, visiting family. They weren't able to really do that for the last 2 years. But hopefully when the Easter week is over, I'll pick up more. Again, buyers are very hesitant because of the great competition. And those who have already tried, they're getting a little discouraged because of that competition. Because so many people applying for, just one house. So there's multiple offers. I hear some people say 20, 30. I don't know if it's that high. The one that I had, we got 7 offers on it, and it could have been even more if I I wanted to work with the offers I had, and that was plenty. And there were people who asked for above our asking price, and I knew what the house was worth, and my sellers just wanted to sell it. They wanted to get it off their hands. I didn't want to get into a situation where we have to go with the appraiser and show them more comps and work things out. They just wanted to have really a smooth sale. So what I believe, and most of the times, knock on wood, I've been right on this. I priced it what the real true value it is. And that's how listings should be priced. Priced by what you really think it is. And then with today's market, you'll get some higher offers. And then you take a chance that the appraiser or the appraisal will come in earlier. All right. So let's do a little preview of what we're going to do today. And then we'll go right into the subject matter. Okay, I'm just checking that. Yeah, it's sitting up on my blog. Uh, this podcast goes out to about, actually, I think 6 locations, and I just want to make sure it's hitting everywhere where it should be. Okay, so let's get our graphic up here, or our PDF file, and I'll take away my little caption. Okay, what you need to budget for when buying a home. All right, and this is after the discussion about getting pre-qualified. That's really your very, 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 very first step, is getting that pre-qualification. So if you could buy now, and if you're able to, which most times you are, you will know your price range. All right. It's best to do it early in case you might have some stumbling blocks to cross over on your credit reports. And you may need a month. You may need 3 months to clean up some items. So don't wait till you see your dream house that you love and you go see it, and then you get pre-qualified and you realize then you need about 3 months to get back online or up to par to purchase this house. And especially, and the other example is that your credit is fine, but the house is really out of your price range. So that's very important to do that first. But after that, then you really have to start talking about budgeting, okay? And we have a nice couple walking into the house with their real estate agent. They have that nice little pad, okay? And what are some of the things that we have to consider when we're purchasing home? And the first thing is down payment. Because once you find that home, at closing, and let's just use the typical 30 days. So let's say you have a ratified contract on May 1st, and on May 30th, you're closing. On that closing date, it's not, we say cash, in a sense it's cash, but it's going to be money that's wired, or it's going to be a certified check or a bank check, which is really as good as cash. And that will go directly to the bank to show, that will go towards I'm just thinking about explaining for the earnest money deposit too, but it's part of your financing. Okay, now in most people see that as 20% of the home purchase price as the down payment, but there are programs out there where we need only to put down 3.5%, which is usually or always with FHA, and there are Fannie Mae programs that are 3% down. Okay, so this saves you some money with your down payment. Okay, there's a big difference between 20% and 3.5%. Okay, and in Virginia, and I can't talk about, Mr. Real Estate with Mr. G goes, all throughout the United States of America and then to Europe. I only could talk about Virginia and what I know here. Okay. So the millions of fans that are watching across the United States, you have to find out with your loan officers what programs they have there. And here we have the VHDA program. It's actually, I believe it's changed its name a little bit. But basically, it's not that they're giving you money for your down payment of 3.5%. They're allowing you to finance that amount. So you're financing the 3.5. So you're not really bringing a down payment. It's going to be financed. But there's some stipulations on it. You may have to be in a certain price range. Well, first of all, you have to be a first-time home buyer. Okay. And then you actually go into a training. It's usually a webinar class you take online about the importance of paying back your loan, et cetera, et cetera. Of course, that's very important. And then you could finance your down payment. If your credit is really, really good, it's very possible that you could get your closing costs financed as well. And then we'll go up to, I've heard, like 103%. All right, so you have your closing costs. And we're going to talk about closing costs in a minute. Okay, so they're actually financing it, so you don't have to bring cash to the table. Are there grant programs out there? Yes, there are. The way the market is going right now, I've been having a difficult time finding them with my loan officers. They're not talking that much about them. I don't want to say they're not out there in case you are working with a loan officer that has some grant programs. One thing stays in place for a long time, and there's a USDA loan. It's usually when you're purchasing in the area that's very rural, very country, and they want to get more people out there so that eventually, it will draw in businesses, will go out, shopping centers, different venues, whether it's entertainment, could be hospitals, will start building out there. And they really want to build up this area, and they will give you a grant. But again, it has to be in the rural area, where you see a lot of country, you see a lot of trees. Okay, you don't see a lot of houses. So, and your loan officer will know what areas you could use the USDA, that down payment program. I wanted to go back to the first-time home buyers just to say a couple more things. Again, if you're making really, really good money, if you're making $100,000 a year in your first house, most likely you're not going to be eligible for this, because it's going to be for people who are really starting out. They have limited funds, and they will have a hard time coming up with that down payment. So there are income limitations on it. But the income limitations go along as well with the amount of people living in your house. So if you were just buying a house by yourself, for example, they might say a single occupant, you can't make more than 37,000. But if you have a wife, or you have a spouse, let's put it that way, you have someone living with you, um, that goes up maybe to, let's say, 45,000. And then if you have children, it goes up higher. Okay, so it adjusts for the amount of people living in a house. And then the other question is, uh, could I own a house and be considered a first-time home buyer again? Well, if you sold your house that you previously had, and it's been 3 years, most likely you could apply for the first-time home buyers program. Okay. Now, I want you to double check with your loan officers. Okay, because these items change, the parameters change, but I would want you to really to confirm everything with your mortgage loan officer. So what's the next big thing? Your earnest money deposit. Now that's actually given once the contract is ratified, right? When we, both the buyer and the seller, making a mutual agreement, right? They're together on a contract, okay? And just like shaking hands. They've agreed on all terms. Then that earnest money deposit is then deposited. Now it could be with your closing company. It could be with the listing agent's brokerage house. It could be your brokerage house. I think it's always good to keep it with your closing company, and they will hold it. Okay. So, and what does this earnest money deposit mean? Well, it means that you are earnest, that you are genuine, that you are going to purchase this house. All right. And once you have that ratified contract, because of that earnest money deposit, the seller will say, okay, I'm going to take it off the market. I'm not going to show it anymore. Or if I show it, it'll just be backup of office. We have to deal with yours first. Then it shows to that seller that you're truly honest about it. Now, in this very highly competitive market, okay. Oh, I got to go back to here so you can see my cursor and my mouse going around it. Okay. You really should do more than 500. Usually in our area, we give a 500 earnest money deposit. But since it's very, very competitive, you should give at least 1,000. And if you could give more, if you could give 1% of the purchase price of the house. All right, so if the house is for 250,000, if you could put down 2,500, that's even better. Now you're telling the seller, I'm really, really earnest. I'm giving the chance that I might lose $2,500. Now, in most situations, you won't. I mean, if you're truly earnest about the house, all right, and you know, uh, you have the home inspection, you're pleased with the home inspection, it's good. The appraisal came out and then met the purchase price. The only way you may not get it, for some reason, all of a sudden the bank says, "Oh, wait a minute, there's a problem with your credit," and it could be you did something. All of a sudden you decided to buy a car. You bought a big screen TV that was 1,000, and then knocked you out of the ballpark for that house. Now, depending on how that's viewed, I mean, the bank probably will just say you're no longer eligible. You send it to the listing agent, and it says, the bank is not going to give me the loan. And in most situations, I don't want to put this in stone, you will get your earnest money deposit back. Now, you can get your earnest money deposit back if you do a home inspection contingency, and the home inspector goes in there and you find out a lot of problems with it, and you decide I no longer want to continue. You could pull out and get your earnest money back. You have to make sure you do it within a certain time limit, but that's another way you can get your money back. Okay. But you can't just walk away from the deal. All right. The seller then, if you just say, hey, it's like 25 days after ratification, you just say, hey, I don't want the house anymore. Then there's a good chance the seller is going to request to keep that money. Now, that money to be released, it's a mutual agreement as well. You both have to sign a release and agree with the money is going to go to. Now, the seller may ask to keep it. You may ask, no, I want it back. And then it may go to the Virginia Real Estate Board to get it settled. It might go to the realtor. Thank God, knocking on wood, I never had that problem. Um, but if you're just pulling out with any reason in the sense that you can't get the loan or you find out the house is condemned or whatever, uh, you most likely will not get your earnest money deposit back. And that's why by giving a bigger one shows how sincere that you really, really, really want the house. All right, so I'm going to this paragraph here. Deposit made from the buyer to the seller when submitting an offer. The deposit is typically held in trust by a third party, like your closing company, the buyer's closing company, and is intended to show the seller you are serious about purchasing their home. Upon closing, the money will generally be applied to your down payment or closing costs. So you're not losing it, okay? It's not like an extra fee. It's going to your benefit. And again, in this paragraph here, um, and it's really reaching out to all 50 states. What are the limitations in your state as it comes to earnest money deposit. Um, and again, when I came down here, I'm coming from Brooklyn, New York, where homes are like 5 times more expensive than down here in Virginia. Though, I mean, it's getting pretty high here too. But I was surprised to find out that most people just gave $500. I thought it would have been a lot more. And I really up to like 1 to 2%. So if you're purchasing a $300,000 house, you have to put down 3% at 1%, right? $3,000 at 1%. But down here, up to this point, of this point of this crazy market, this insane market, it's usually been this $500. Then we have something called closing costs. Okay, and what are these closing costs? And going to this paragraph here, the upfront fees charged in connection with a mortgage loan transaction, generally including, but not limited to, the loan origination fee, title examination, and insurance, survey, attorney's fees. We don't have attorney's fee here. This is a state where we don't need attorneys to for a buyer to purchase a house, and the real estate agent or the realtor writes up the contract, uh, and that's allowed in the state of Virginia. Back in New York, you would present an offer to a seller, and once the seller accepts, an attorney would write up the contract. But we don't have that here. Okay, you could use your attorney for the transaction, but it's not mandatory. Okay, and prepaid items such as escrow deposits for taxes and insurance. Okay, so that's a tricky one. A lot of people are not sure what are these prepaid items. So, for instance, uh, if okay, we're going into May, we usually get billed again from July to December for taxes. So let's say the person who's is selling the house has already paid to the end of the year for their taxes. Well, once you take ownership of the house, they have to be reimbursed for that. I mean, they're not going to be the super nice guy and saying, well, now you own the house, but I paid your taxes for you. Well, that's a prepaid item, and they have to be reimbursed for that. Okay. Same thing with insurance. If they're paid up for the year with their house insurance, um, they would have to be reimbursed for that. If you're buying a house in a homeowners association and the seller has paid their dues up for the year, they would have to be reimbursed for that. So these are these prepaid items. So then, what are these closer costs? What are they going to cost me? So it says, for example, closing costs, which make up about 2 to 5% of the home's purchase price, are a major added expense. Lenders will provide a closing disclosure at least 3 business days prior to closing on the mortgage. But buyers will need to budget for these added costs ahead of time to avoid sticker shock before the closing. Now, I added this down here. We'll just jump down here. The rule of thumb for closing costs. If it's a house that say it's from 250, or I'll go down to 200,000 to about 450, you could use an estimate of 3%. If you have homes that are 150 and lower, okay, you have to give an estimate of 4 to 4.5% for closing costs, 4 to 4.5 of the purchase price. And the reason why, because the price of the house is lower, but there are some of these expenses that stay the same. They don't really change with a cheaper house. So the 3% wouldn't cover it on 150. So if the house is 150 lower, look to 4 to 4.5% for your closing costs. More so 4.5, just to play it safe. All right. We'll come back to these other closing costs once we finish this. The other thing I want to say, prior to the seller's market, would be able to get the seller to pay the buyer's closing costs, this 3%. Not so much now. Not in this type of market. Be prepared to pay your own closing costs. We call it seller concessions. So we ask a seller concession of 3% of the purchase price to go to the buyer's closing costs. But in today's market, that's really tough. It's really tough to do. Okay. There are ways of working around that if you don't have the money. So let's say the house is, to make it simple, $100,000. You think the closing cost, let's say, would be 4%, so $4,000. Okay. What you could do is actually through the bank, it's shown that you purchased a house at $104,000, but the actual purchase price is $100,000. So there's an extra $4,000, and that could go to the seller. Well, it could go to to the buyer for their closing cost. Okay, but the thing is that the house has to appraise at that higher amount. So you have a contract at $100,000, but you're going to see if it's worth up to $104,000 to get a loan out for that and give the $4,000 for your closing costs. So there are ways to work with it, but you got that stipulation there that the house has to appraise at that higher amount. Okay. So what this one article does not have is the other costs. So once you purchase the home, or I should say, once you have a ratified contract, we always recommend to do a home inspection. Even if you're not going to ask for repairs, because of this market that we're having right now, seller's market, but make sure that you're not buying a real lemon that all of a sudden, 5 months from now, you have to buy a new HVAC system that costs $20,000. Okay. Or you find out that the roof is so bad that once it starts raining hard, the water will start pouring down. Okay. So get that home inspection. The home inspector will tell you the lifetime of the roof, of the HVAC system. And this way you don't have a gigantic cost right away when you purchase your home. So get that appraisal fee. Okay, it's just an expense that you have. There's no way you could get it back, but it's for peace of mind. And the other fee you will get, and sometimes the banks will ask that up front, is the appraisal fee. So when the appraiser goes out there, wants to make sure that that house is worth $100,000 and not $80,000, and that will cost between $450 to $500. Okay, so that's your cost that you have as you're purchasing your home: your down payment, your earnest money deposit. Okay, your closing cost, and then what I added, your home inspection and appraisal fee. Okay. All righty then. So let me go back to me here. And remember that I have, let's see, I want to get the my spring buyer and seller's guide on my blog. You go to realestatewithmrg.blog and you click on, you could either type this in wholly, completely, or once you go to my blog, you are on the top menu and you click resource materials, and you will then see, and let me make sure I still have it up here. You have the things to consider when selling your house, the spring 2022 edition, and you could download that for free. And you could also download things to consider when buying a home, spring edition 2022 edition. Okay. And we update these 4 times a year for each season. Isn't that nice? Okay. All right. Now, of course, let me show my little film on my little video, because we really still need listings. Okay, that's very important. Let me just show a little video on that. So for sellers, it's a great, great market, and we're getting into, well, we're in spring now, but now we're getting into the real spring buying season. So if you were thinking about putting your house on the market, the time is now. Okay, and I wouldn't wait because yeah, home prices may still go up, but what's going to happen is that definitely the mortgage rates are going up. So you're going to have, you might get you might be able to price your house higher, but there's going to be a smaller pool of people that would be interested or could afford your house. Let's put it that way. So it's a great time now to list your property. And again, I am an associate broker for eXp Realty in Hampton, Virginia. Okay. And you see all my contact information. Now, I also upload this as a podcast. So those who want to contact me, you just go to, my email address is chris@realestatewithmrg.com. So that's Chris at REALESTATEWITHMRG.com. One big long word. Okay. So I'm hearing from my producer, William Burgess, that we have a famous act in the audience. What's going on with that?
Chris. We have a couple of special guest celebrities in the audience. They are Mr. and Mrs. Corden. After years of ordering his wife about the house and keeping her in short order by using a cat o' nine tails, he decided to capitalize this talent and whipped his wife on the Ed Sullivan Show. Tonight they will demonstrate their act in our auditorium. A special note to add, the act was updated to respect current societal norms. Ladies and gentlemen, the Cordens.
And a lot of people in the audience, were a little scared with that, but she is safe, and that's all well. Okay. I have a very busy week. My father had passed away at 98 years old, a World War II vet. I think I'm getting a little feedback. And he lived a long, good life, loving man, wonderful man. And this week is his funeral, and I have a lot of people coming in, so I'm not so sure if I will have time for an Easter broadcast. If I don't do it Sunday, I might do it Monday, but via social media, I will let you know. Okay. And again, if you haven't been vaccinated, please do so. Be kind to each other. And it's Holy Week coming up. Be kind to each other, and remember, the greatest power we have is to love, and the greatest gift, each other. I'll see you soon, and happy Easter if I'm not on next Saturday.